This is Don DeBartolo, a senior commodity broker and market strategist with Daniels Trading in Chicago. I am also the trader behind the Trade Spotlight advisory service. Trade Spotlight is broken into three segments. You have your Trade Spotlight futures, Trade Spotlight commodity options, and Trade Spotlight futures spreads. This is Beyond the Spotlight, a video that will spotlight two or three markets that may become trading opportunities for this week. This week begins with Monday, July 12th, 2021. Please pause the video and read the disclosures to understand the risks involved with futures and commodity options trading. Okay, jumping right into the first chart. This is September 2021 Japanese yen. This was on last week's Beyond the Spotlight. There was a trade recommendation sent out last week, and there was a fill on Friday. So I just want to bring this back, point out this trade, and let you know there's an opportunity to get into the Japanese yen based on current market conditions. So the breakout bar was July 8th. You can see that's that big bar with the blue ellipse around it. I was looking for that breakout of the upper trend line with these 4 or 5 touches running along. It was a strong trend line. The market on the 8th of July, that was Thursday of last week, broke through that trend line, closed above it, traded near a 50% Fibonacci retracement at 91.38.5. I put out the recommendation to buy the contract on a pullback. I was looking for a pullback to the trend line. I didn't want to overpay to get into the futures contract. And you can see on the Friday session, we did get that pullback. Traded down to 90.74.5. Filling the order, the fill price was right where we had our limit order working. But I do want to show that in today's trading session, there's a little bit more pullback. So there's an opportunity to get long this position. If you missed it last week, or if you're waiting out for a little more of a pullback, it's there. The only knock I have right now is my momentum has kind of hooked down a little bit. But it was already approaching potentially an overbought level. So not surprised to see a little bit of a pullback in these last couple sessions. That's okay. I'll monitor that closely. If we break below the 50% mark of this momentum, that changes things. But right now we've got the stop in place. It's below recent lows in that 20-day moving average. Target is up there at these recent highs. So you're able to get into this trade a little bit better price than where I did on Friday. Okay, the next chart is the September 2021 30-year bonds. So here I have a lower trend line drawn off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches coming back to, I started about mid-May, though there isn't a touch at mid-May. But that began this trading environment where we made, for the most part, higher lows. And the market was on a nice rally, going from about the 154 handle to about the 165 handle in the span of a couple months. What I'm looking for is to get long the bonds, but not up at these highs. We haven't been up at this 162 price level since earlier this year, February. So what I'd like to see though is a pullback to this lower trend line. And that trend line crosses about 160.22, which is right at that 38.2% Fibonacci retracement of this rally. So I'm looking for a pullback to this trend line. Right now, my MACD indicator, this is my trend indicator, is shifting down. Stochastics indicator is showing that there's some downside momentum building coming off being overbought. So I don't want to take a long position with my indicators suggesting that we're going to get a pullback in this market. So looking for a pullback to the lower trend line. There's also a 20-day moving average right there at 160.16. That's the ideal position to get long. So I'm watching that for this week. That can happen in a couple sessions. We do want to see the indicators hooking back up, however, so that may take a week, but this one I want to have on the radar. Potential stop loss would go below that lower trend line and the 20-day moving average, or even the 50-day moving average, which is at 158.01. Potential target, we can look right back at that recent contract high, which was 164.30 from the 8th of July. So have this market on your radar for this week. Then one last note about the bonds. On a pullback to this trend line, may look at using commodity options to get long by either an outright call or a call spread, as the bonds can be volatile and the risk could be too high with an outright futures contract. Okay, the third final chart for today is the November 2021 soybeans. I am looking for an opportunity to sell this futures contract to the downside, or look at puts in the beans, since beans is a volatile commodity market. I've got this lower trend line drawn off with touches from the middle of June. There are 6, 7 touches on this trend line, strong trend line. I'll close below that trend line, which today crosses about 13.17 or so and a half. And you have to eyeball it. A close below there would trigger a trade to the downside for me if my momentum hooks back down. So right now it's kind of hooking up a little bit. So I am looking for higher price action before I actually look to sell this contract, because again, I want my indicators to be shifting down, both this momentum indicator and my trend indicator. Perhaps the market finds some resistance at that 50-day moving average at 137 and a quarter, or even up at these highs, which come in above 1400. 1402 and a half was the July 1st session high. So then I'll wait for that market to retrace, close below that trend line, and set up a trade to the downside. Potential target, you can look at these session lows, which come in at about 1205, 1202, somewhere around the $12 level, going back to some lows in February and March and some highs from January and February. So this is another market that may take a week to mature, waiting on those indicators to hook back over, but I want to keep this on the radar for a potential trade. There's also seasonal to be short the beans starting from the beginning of July. So we're in that period right now, but let's see if we can't catch it with the momentum and the trend in our favor. Here's a quick look at what the Trade Spotlight Advisory Service looks like. It's an email service, so if you're a subscriber, it'll come directly in your inbox. You'll have the timestamp so you know when the trade recommendation is sent out, or right above the trade, precise entry and exit orders, pertinent information like margins or days till option expiration, and a chart that you can click to enlarge. Here is the Daniels Trading website where you can find the Trade Spotlight Advisory Service. Just go danielstrading.com, click on Advisories, and then under Technical Analysis, you'll find Trade Spotlight. You can see a write-up, review recent posts, and then click the subscribe button. It's free for 90 days. If you're a client of mine or the firm, it's a free resource going forward. Here is all my contact information. If you have any questions about the Japanese yen trade that I'm currently in, or the other 2 charts that I showed today, or just the markets in general. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen, and happy trading.